going, guys? Today we're talking about Vengeance, a Love Story, the latest Nicolas Cage film, which is centered around a single mother who is walking back from a party with her daughter when she is suddenly sexually assaulted by a group of guys, leaving her daughter to witness the horrific crime. She seeks justice to settle her pain, and at this point we're introduced to Nicolas Cage's character, who is a detective who is on the case after these criminals are deemed not guilty in court. He is going after these guys to make sure that they end up behind bars for their crime. Now, generally, when I go into a Nicolas Cage film, I expect things to be pretty bad, and I set my expectations really low and hope to be pleasantly surprised. With this film, it's not a terrible film, but it's not a good one. Again, it's just adding to his resume of meh films that you kind of forget about over time. The problem I face with this film is that this movie should have ended like 30 minutes after it began. It has a very generic formula that it is following. It's something that we have already seen time and time again, and when these characters are proven, I guess, not guilty, you really find that hard to believe, considering that these criminals who attacked the woman probably have a record. Probably. This isn't their first sexual assault. They didn't just randomly decide to sexually assault this woman. And the fact that this judge is arrogant as hell and somehow deems that these guys are going to be innocent is a bit ridiculous. If you think about it, if this were to happen in real life, they would have been guilty, but they needed to make this movie longer, hence the extra hour for this film, where Nicolas Cage is trying to do everything he can to put these guys behind bars. Let's talk about Nicolas Cage. He's okay in this film. His acting isn't great. Even with these indie projects that he's been doing, there are times where he's done pretty well in terms of acting. In this job, he's just kind of, sort of, almost winging it. There was, like, no emotion in this guy. When he's going after these guys, there's no sense of, oh, I really care that this woman was sexually assaulted. He just seems like he's following a movie script, and he's, oh, I'm doing this? Well, I guess I'm doing this. Pretty boring, even though it's Nicolas Cage. If we can get some Nicolas Cage-ness in this film, where he just starts yelling and shouting and, you know, just doing all this outrageous stuff, we can get some entertainment value out of this film. We really don't get it. Nicolas Cage really dialed it down a notch, and he's like, I'm gonna play this very boring cop. Let me go kill a bunch of people. Yeah, I sought justice. End credits. No emotion from this guy. And it's kind of predictable what he's gonna do the entire film. Like I said, the movie is predictable. It's an hour and 30 minutes long. You kind of get an understanding of what's going to happen within the next hour. And when Nicolas Cage is doing what he's doing in the last, like, 30 minutes of the movie, you're like, yeah, well, I totally saw this coming. 80% of the time, he is a corrupt cop in every movie. So your end result with this film is it's a predictable movie that you've already seen. The acting is okay. There's not much substance to the story. It's a very simple story that we've already seen even Nicolas Cage do before in works like Frozen Ground, for instance, and even last year, The Trust, or even Bad Lieutenant. And there's just like a whole list of movies where he's playing a cop or a government official, because that's all he's doing nowadays. That's the only role he's accepting nowadays. A cop, a government official, some kind of war general. Those are the three roles he's doing in the last 10 years. Those are the only three things he's done in like the span of 25 films. And the title, Vengeance, a Love Story, were they just trying to be creative or something? Because that title does not fit this movie. Just call this movie Vengeance. The love story part, there is no metaphors or hidden meaning in this movie. And there's certainly no love story in the film. It's about a woman who is getting raped and is seeking justice. Not much to this film, and there's really no need to watch something you've already seen that's not done particularly well. So I'm going to be giving Vengeance, a Love Story a D. There are much worser films that he's done. This one's actually watchable. It's something I've already watched time and time again. Doesn't seem like there was much effort put into this film to make it a suspense film that it's trying to be. That's another Nick Cage film for you. Let's add it on to the list of other films that we're going to forget in time. So originally I was planning on doing a countdown of like all the Nicolas Cage films, And that was like 7 months ago. I did my first video where I counted down his 5 worst films. Which, by the way, still are his 5 worst films, even though last year's Pay the Ghost was pretty close to topping The Wicker Man for being bad. But there's 70 other films I gotta count down. He's doing like 4 or 5 movies a year, so it's really hard to keep up. So I'm hoping eventually to get another video out and be counting down his next 10 worst films in the countdown. Be on the lookout for that. Should be a lot of fun, I guess. We're not going to start hitting any of his good movies for quite some time in terms of those episodes, because I'm going to try and do like the series by 10 film intervals. So there's probably going to be like 8 episodes or something from his worst to his best. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on this film or other Nicolas Cage films, please comment your thoughts down below. If you want to hit that like down on the bottom, I'd really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you guys next time for more unboxings, reviews, and movie news.